Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome in to episode number 47. Number 47 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. And hello, Erica Campbell.
Hello, I always do this wrong. Hi, Tim.
How are you doing today?
I am great. Yes, it's a beautiful day here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have like one in the fall and then it gets snowy. So I'm taking advantage of it. I'm in a tank top and we're both wearing blue today.
We are. We definitely planned this. No, actually,
Yes.
we didn't. But we want to know, what is the weather where you are? And
Yes.
where are you? We want to know that. But thank you so much for showing up. We appreciate it every week when you do. And this show, Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, was created as a safe space where cancer patients, cancer survivors, and supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. My name is Tim Sohn, a 15-year cancer survivor, host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and a live streaming producer, coach for nonprofits, businesses, and entrepreneurs who make a positive impact in the world. Who are you over there?
Hi, I'm Erica Campbell. I am myself a 4-year cancer survivor from breast cancer. I am also, I call myself a cancer leader. I lead a nonprofit helping kids with cancer and their families. I am also a longtime cancer volunteer and we're talking about cancer ambassador and also a cancer orphan. So that is another title, as I lost my mother to breast cancer nearly 20 years ago today. And Tim, I actually had an experience. I didn't get to share this with you earlier. Just yesterday, I was on the phone with a friend and he said, "Oh, hey, I got to go. My business partner's calling." And so, yes, we normally talk once a week. And so I said goodbye. And he called me back 20 minutes later and he was nearly beside himself. And he just heard that his business partner had been diagnosed with cancer. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is a community that he gets to join. And it labeled me again as sort of a cancer supporter because I spent the next half hour processing with him his emotions, what it meant for their business. And I just think the community that we're creating, every day somebody gets that new diagnosis, and every day somebody becomes a caregiver or a supporter. And so I just want to say thank you, Tim, for creating this community. And I'll be inviting all of those folks into this community. So just want to say thank you to you and to everybody joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Erica, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And thank you all for showing up. And let us know in the comments, are you a cancer survivor? Are you a cancer supporter? What is your connection to cancer? We definitely want to know that. Right, Erica?
Absolutely. Yes. And we would love to know where you're joining us from. So we want to know the weather. We want to know where you're joining us from. And we want to know what is your connection to cancer. And if none of those questions land for you, just say hi to somebody else in the chat, even somebody you don't know, because one of the things that Tim and I love about what we're creating with you is community. And so we get to celebrate each other, celebrate through joys, highs, lows, and we just get to come together once a week for this sacred space.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So before we bring on our amazing guest for this week, I want to remind you guys that coming up on November 5th, which is it's a month and 1 day away, is the first ever in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event here in Pennsylvania from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. In partnership with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and all of the amazing sponsors who are supporting the event. The event is, if you are a cancer patient, a supporter, a survivor, whatever your connection is to cancer, come share your story and come be supported and support others. We would love for you to do that. So you can go to perspectivesoncancer.com to sign up. It's a free event, completely free, and there's free food as well. So who doesn't like free food?
Who doesn't like
Erica?
free food?
I mean, you can't go wrong. So you can find all the details at perspectivesoncancer.com. So Erica, who is our guest for this week? I'm really excited about this week's guest.
Yes. Our guest is Pamela Brinker. Pamela is a cancer supporter. She's an experienced psychotherapist of 31 years and the author of a new book called Conscious Bravery. So let's welcome Pamela to the show.
Let's do that. Hi, Pamela.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Tim and Erica.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be here.
We are so grateful that you are here. And I know we are connected because of Ashok. He was a previous guest on the show. I'm not going to try to say his last name. Do you know how to say his last name, Pamela?
Bhattacharya.
There you go. I'll leave that up to you.
Hi, Ashok.
Yes. But thank you so much for being on the show. We are looking forward to hearing your story and perspectives as well. Before we dive into the conversation, we want to say thank you. We see the comments are blowing up already from everybody who is here to support you and each other. So let's say hello to a few folks who are tuning in. Brian O'Sullivan is here. It's so great to see you here, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
He is a cancer patient, and it's great to see him. Shannon is here. It's great to see you. She says, good afternoon, all.
Hi, Shannon.
Mark Kageyama is here. He's sometimes a guest co-host and a previous guest on the show. So it's so great to see you here, Mark.
Welcome, Mark.
Yes. Jennifer is here. Welcome, Jennifer. So good to see you. Philip Jones is here. He says, hello from Los Angeles. He's a kidney transplant patient on dialysis, brain surgery survivor, and will be having an open heart surgery in the near future. His stepmom just finished battling stage 2 breast cancer, and a good friend of his just finished something. But thank you for sharing all of that, Philip. We're sending you lots of love and prayers.
Lots of love for you, Philip.
Definitely. Tom Tressler is here. Thanks for being here again, Tom. He's giving us the weather, 68 and sunny in Cincinnati.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Kindness Shall Matter, KSM Foundation.
Yes.
John Finnegan is here.
Hi, John.
Sylvia is here.
Oh, wonderful. I love that it's a high school friend of yours, Pamela. That's lovely.
Sylvia, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, John.
Wonderful. Joseph is here from Miami, Florida.
Hi, Joseph.
Thank you all for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And as we go through the conversation, let us know what questions you have for Pamela. We want this to be an interactive conversation for sure. So let's start out here, Pamela. Tell us your story and tell us your background as a cancer supporter.
My husband died from grade 4 glioblastoma brain cancer 11 years ago this month. And it all happened so fast. He had a seizure on a Sunday on a bike ride with me and a couple of our friends, and then he had another seizure the next morning. And because he was in the medical field, he was rushed immediately by colleagues to have an MRI. And that day they knew he had glioblastoma. He had another MRI the next day in another city that showed that he had grade 4. And grade 4 is considered an incurable cancer because it recurs. And even though the tumor can be removed in the first surgery, the tumors regrow. And so things happened really fast for him. And it was so unexpected, everyone. And that's something that I want to speak to today, preparation. Because it happened so fast. He was given the diagnosis and a prognosis of a year or less to live. And he died a year and 3 months later. And so it really shook our world. But as I said, he was an athlete. I was an athlete and a musician. And so I was accustomed to practicing at things. And so I kind of told myself, all right, well, I'll practice at this. I'll kind of figure this out. And get better at it and learn how to do this. And I immediately started a caring bridge because a couple of friends of mine who were doctors said, your phone's going to light up all the time, because he was an international speaker in addition to being in the medical field, and he knew a lot of people everywhere. And so I started a caring bridge and started posting once a month about what was happening, what was, how he was doing, what the treatments were, because he had a variety of treatments, cyberknife and some other things, and of course chemotherapy. But anyway, it really rocked our worlds and was really hard for my husband, because he wanted to live. He did not want to believe he had a terminal diagnosis, and really was very difficult for my two teenage sons, who loved him very, very much, even though he was their stepfather. He had come in and said, hey, when I'm here, I'm your dad. You have a dad. He's not going to love you any less, but when I'm with you, I'm your full-on dad. And he'd never been a dad before, and that kind of chokes me up. He was really just an amazing dad to my sons, and they both loved him dearly.
Wow, Pamela, that is quite the story. And how long ago was that?
That was 11 years ago this month.
Wow.
In October.
And to still get that emotional, time is a healer, and also time can go by in a flash. Yeah.
It's true. Well, I believe, Erica, that's a beautiful way to put it. Time could go by in a flash. And there's the preciousness of this moment. Here we all are together, and we've all got our own stories. Erica, 4 years ago, you were a survivor. Tim, you were just sharing with me your poignant story. And each one of us, even though we are, most of us here, pretty vibrant in some ways, we're all going to get sick and die. I was just looking at the stats for cancer's the number one. If you look at what's going to take our lives, it looks like, from what I Googled this morning, heart disease is first and cancer is second. Most of us are not going to die in our sleep, And so I was unprepared. My husband was unprepared, even though I had counseled. I'd been a psychotherapist for 31 years, and I'd counseled thousands of people. Well, not at the time, 31 years, 21 years at the time. But I'd counseled literally thousands of people, walking alongside them through loss and grief. But still, when it hit me, it really knocked me off my feet. Wow. Same with my family. So.
Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah. Sure. How did you balance that? Because you have this background in psychotherapy, but you have your husband's, need to be hopeful about his prognosis, and then the reality and some of the statistics that you know about glioblastoma. How did you balance the two, the reality versus the importance of hope?
I did two simultaneous things at once. I became sort of a master compartmentalizer, because my husband, throughout the duration of his treatments and up until 30 days before he passed, he did not want to believe that his diagnosis was terminal or that he would die. He thought he could kick it, and he would be the one person who survived grade 4 glio. And yet, so I wanted to walk alongside him with that and honor his belief and be in his world with him in that hopefulness. And simultaneously, I knew, as I had said, I had some friends who were doctors, and two of them sat down with me. And the day after he had his surgery, they said, he's going to die, and it's going to be ugly. And we all just sat and cried together, because they were very close to him as well. And they said, we want you to prepare, because we've worked with a lot of people who don't. And so I had to kind of keep those two things separate, keep my own knowledge and my own need to walk through this journey with him, alongside him, completely supporting him, but knowing what I believed the outcome would be. I was still really hopeful. I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe in miracles. And so I don't want to squash that for any of us. And I wanted to have some ability to know what to do in any given moment, and to have the bravery that was needed from my sons. And they struggled much more than I was aware of. I found out later how much they really had turmoil about this. But at any rate, so that's how I did it. I guess I kind of had the yin and the yang and the in-between.
So you just really...
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead,
Were you
Tim.
going to say something, Erica?
I was just going to say thank you for that helpful perspective on compartmentalizing and the ability to shift, it seems like, and meet him where he was at, and also meet yourself where you're at.
I think that's so important for all of us to meet ourselves first with compassion. So many people I've worked with for years and years, we put others first. And that's kind of at their expense and our own, because our capacity for loving kindness and compassion and to sustain the sort of conscious bravery that I talk about and write about has to come initially from resourcing right here and resourcing from what's greater, to God or nature or the Tao, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But we cannot resource by putting our energy out to help others. At least that's what I learned.
Yeah. So Pamela, you talked a little bit about spirituality, but can you talk a little bit more about how did your spirituality affect your grace for yourself, but also for your husband?
My husband's dying process, I consider sacred. I believe that that's true for any of us, and that we have the privilege and are gifted the ability to walk alongside someone while they are declining and then ultimately in their passing. And it can be what I call in my book a form of beautiful ugliness. Yes. And so it really, I really, that year and the year afterward, I kind of had this chant, God, I want to know you in this life, no matter what it takes. And wow, did I ever receive that answer and that gift, because things just kept coming. And mine is not the archetypal hero's journey either, because my sons still struggle greatly with mental health issues now and with addiction issues, and they're both in recovery right now, knock on wood, and it's a high and a low process. And so for me, my spirituality is everything to me. It's one and the same with who I am. I connect with myself daily through meditation and yoga and prayer and in nature, and I connect with source. I do meditations in the quantum. I kind of do it all. And thankfully, my husband was a spiritual person, and he did want to do spiritual things with me. You know, we would be out in nature, and we would pray together, and we would sing together. We would do a crazy thing that's fun to remember this moment, when we would both come home at the same time and we'd be in the garage. We'd close one of our car doors and leave the other car radio on, and we would do garage dancing. We would just blast the music and do garage dancing. And that can be really spiritual too. Spirituality for me is not limited to a posture or a place. It is vibrantly interwoven throughout life. And so I feel just so graced and privileged to be here with all of you and tell you that you have the opportunity to expand. You know, that was one of the things that I found that cancer meant for me that year, was the expansiveness. It stretched me beyond anything that I considered possible. And it was spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physiologically, you know, in every single aspect.
Pamela, did your husband's cancer diagnosis change your spirituality at any? Did it increase it at all? Did it change it at all? Did you have any sort of spiritual journey as a result of the cancer of your husband?
I did. He was so angry with that diagnosis of grade 4 glioblastoma, and some of our friends would consider it denial, that he was in denial about the terminal nature of it. And so walking alongside him was a bit of a challenge at times, because not only was he angry about the diagnosis, but the very place in which the tumors were regrowing on his brain affected his anger. And so he had a lot of trouble managing outbursts of anger and so forth. And so those were the roughest moments for me. To be present with someone when they're really furious, for me, was really hard, partly because of just my upbringing and things. And yet I really wanted to honor his anger. I believe all emotions are important, and we want to befriend all of our feelings, even the shame and the guilt, the anger, all of it. And so sometimes I would just say, I hear that you're really angry. I need a little space, a little time. Just know I'm not leaving, but I'll be back in like 15 minutes. Sometimes that was helpful, sometimes it wasn't. But yeah, my spirituality got a lot of practice. I had to really learn how to flex bravery muscles and develop bravery muscles and develop spirituality muscles as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pamela, in what ways do you think that your husband's denial of his disease, in what ways was it helpful? And in what ways may have it been hurtful?
It helped him, certainly, to be as tenacious as he was. Initially, he was still training, and we were cross-country skate skiers. And so even into February and March, he was diagnosed in the end of July. And even into February and March, he was still able to ski. But his body started declining, and he lost capacity right around June to do very many intense physical things. And so his denial was hard on me and on our sons, because they wanted to believe he could still do things too. And so they'd say, hey, let's go out and throw the football, or let's do this. And there were just successes and attempts that were really tough at doing some of those physical things. And so for me, my hopefulness partnered with him having the belief he was going to live. I had to really kind of, in my quiet moments and with my sons, just talk about what was really happening. And that was really important for us to do separate from talking with my husband, because he just didn't really want to do some of that reality checking. And yet my sons and I needed that. And so those really open, candid, vulnerable conversations helped me to be stronger. And I think they helped my sons to be stronger too. And I think my kid's stepdad, I think he benefited from that, because then we were able to do what we needed to do for ourselves, while at the same time honoring that was his experience. He needed to believe until some of his last days that he was going to live.
That's really supportive, I think, for people who are supporters, to know that there's a both and here, meaning you can support someone with that denial because hope is necessary, but then you can also have your own quiet spaces and your own support network to know, kind of what you need and what you need for your family. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's well put. And we did some things. We would invite him to do some things that he didn't want to do. And so he had agency as well. And that's important for our listeners to know. Yeah. To allow isn't really the right word, but to honor maybe that our loved ones have their own journey. And if they say no, they don't want to do something, we've got to honor that. Like, we all wanted to go on a vacation with him that year, and he wouldn't have any of it. He was going to work until he passed. And he almost did that. He stopped his job about 32 days before he passed. So yeah, it's really important to see them. And that's the empathy piece that my friend Ashok talks about, and my dear friend Michelle Waters as well, in some of the stuff that she's written. By the way, if you want a resource, it's called, Michelle Waters has a blog called 53 Things I Think I Know by Michelle Waters. She's got some great tips as a cancer survivor on what loved ones can do, as well as what we can do if we have a diagnosis. But at any rate, yeah, I'll just stop there for other questions.
No, I'm gonna share that Michelle Waters blog with my friend. Thank you for saying that as a resource.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to go to the comments for a minute. Mark says that Caring Bridge is awesome. He has it himself. Yeah. Pamela, could you explain what Caring Bridge is for those who don't know what it is?
Absolutely. It's a website. So you just Google www.caringbridge, and you can set up a page. And if you're a supporter or a caregiver, you can write about your loved one. And, I think it's always great to be brief so that people can write back and respond, and there's the engagement. And that's what I did. And oh my goodness, I tell you, I printed out maybe 65 pages of the Caring Bridge comments after my husband passed, just so that I could remember them, because it was a wonderful place for people to have their own voice, to ask questions, to be encouraging, so that, because people who love someone who has cancer want to support, but there comes a time in which you've got enough food in the house already that people are donating. So many people made meals for us lovingly, and thank you for those of you who did that for us. But, it gives you a place to have a voice and to connect with other people. And that authentic connection is such an important resource. I think that part of how I developed as a person spiritually that year had to do with, really, like you were saying earlier, Erica, allowing the supportive network for my husband and me and my sons to really activate and to really kick in. And so I was receiving things that were really hard for me to receive, gifts and flowers and massages and things that people wanted to give. And so I learned to say yes, thank you, with graciousness.
Yeah.
But Caring Bridge is just a wonderful resource. You can put up photos, I would put songs up too that I wanted to share with people that were encouraging. So it's just awesome. And you make a donation, of course, because it's it's a service. So we made donations, and some of the people who visited, our friends and family, would make donations to Caring Bridge as well.
Nice.
My heart is swelling, Pamela, because Caring Bridge actually is a national organization, probably international. They're headquartered here near us, and I've had the opportunity to visit them, and I get to know their amazing CEO. She is wonderful. I'm going to share this with her. She'll love to hear this feedback.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Sylvia says, Pamela's candor and willingness to share with us is so powerful. I've learned so much just 25 minutes into this session. Thank you, Pamela.
That's the beauty of longtime friends. I've known Sylvia since we were sophomores in high school, and I love you, Sylvia. You're great. And all my Lakewood High supporters were awesome through this process too. That's a wonderful thing about longtime friends who've seen you through so many variations and passages in your life.
Yeah.
And Vince had that as well. My husband, who passed, had amazing family, some of the most supportive family you could dream up. Wow. And they were there for him throughout the process and for me, and after he passed. So shout out to his family for being so wonderful, and some of his dear friends. In fact, we had so much support that I would wake up the last month of his life. I would wake up and there would already be 6 people in my home. And we had bought a coffee maker, and it paid for itself in the last couple months of his life, because we were just putting out coffee through the maker for all the people who came just to sit with him and ask him what he wanted, which is another thing I wanted to share with supporters. I don't know if this is an okay time, Tim and Erica?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because a lot of people want to know, what do you do? I think it's crucial to ask people lovingly, with candor, what do you need? I want to do something. May I please? And if it's not now, can you please tell me down the road? And then for some cancer supporters, it's really important just to do stuff, whether or not the people you want to give it to, those who are struggling, want to receive it. If there's something you really want to give, just make it available. If it's, like I said, massages. So my husband really, really loved the massages that were gifted to him. And he had a massage probably at least every 2 or 3 weeks that was really helpful. And, helped him, I think, stay connected to his body, because he was very intellectual and would prefer to be in his head, but it helped him to stay in his body. So some of those gifts come with unexpected benefits like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So Pamela, how did you get the care that you needed and support from your personal network?
I am graced with dear friends, and because I'm a psychotherapist, probably the reason I became a psychotherapist is because it's pretty easy for me to open up. And so thankfully I had friends I could call day or night, anytime. But here's a story that I think is really amazing. about 2 months before my husband passed, I was telling one of my friends that I was really, really struggling and I just didn't know what to do differently. And I told her I really need more support than I'm getting. And she said, I'm on it. And she said, who are your absolutely dearest friends? And I gave her a list. And that was in the morning on a Sunday. The next morning at 7 a.m., 12 of my friends were meeting with me at a Starbucks. And they formed what they called a Pamela Love group. It was a private Facebook group.
Oh,
And they made themselves available to me day and night. And that morning, they listened to me tell some kind of crazy, weird stories about my adrenals firing and just running through the house to help my husband, because we had a kind of a big house with a couple of levels. And sometimes he would be calling to me from a room where it just took me a while to get there, and I'd be hoofing it through the house to get to what he needed and help him. And sometimes it was because he had fallen, and he was 6'3", and a fall was a risk. It's not just like you're a little person and kind of, crumple to the ground. If he fell, it was like one time he hit his head and he actually had to go to the doctor for help on that. So at any rate, it was really wonderful to have friends helping. There was another time one of our friends, John, came over to help me get him up, and there had been an accident in the bathroom, and I told John, I don't know if I can do this today on my own. And he was one of my husband's best friends, and he came over and helped me. And so I am so grateful for the capacity that I was given that year to learn how to ask for help, because it really saved my life. And I think it saved my husband in some ways too, to really learn how to be vulnerable and strong. That's that yin and yang capacity that I want to encourage all of us here to develop, that we don't want to be just strong. Because I tried that, and that was one of the mistakes I made. I was just assertive and thought,
yeah.
okay, well, we'll barrel through this. But then I had to learn how to be tender as well. And that compassion has its roots in bravery. And so there are these seeming opposites that actually go together that I really learned basically through friends walking alongside me.
Okay, Tim, that was a mic drop moment for me. What did you say? Compassion is bravery is roots in compassion, Pamela?
I think I said that.
Yeah.
Bravery has roots in compassion, and compassion has roots in bravery. When we begin to cultivate how to do one of those, like bravery, conscious bravery, being awake and alive and alert, we all of a sudden learn how to be more compassionate and tender and empathic.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, Jason also, I would say, get us another mic drop moment, learning how to be vulnerable and strong. You just said that too, Pamela. And I think that is really beautiful dichotomy. Thank you for saying that.
Sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't come easily. I think a lot of things that are right feel wrong at the time. But that's just because we're not accustomed to doing them. And there were so many things I wasn't accustomed to doing, and that my husband wasn't, my kids weren't.
Yeah.
But that we had to learn how to do, or we realized we had to learn how to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jason says, Pamela Love Group, what a beautiful way to allow your friends to give support and to experience their support. And Sylvia says, after your husband passed, how did you navigate the healing process and start the next chapter? Was there a moment you felt like you turned the corner after such a devastating illness and loss?
That's a brilliant question. And no, there wasn't a moment. And again, I think my story is not the archetypal hero's journey. I say that a lot because it's still messy now. And so, unfortunately, well, I guess I wouldn't even say unfortunately. What happened after my husband died is that my 2 teenage sons turned not just to each other, but also to drugs and alcohol as an answer to their pain. And they were grieving in more ways than I could have imagined. And we were close. I spent time one-on-one with them. We spent time as a threesome. But they were really, really struggling, and they were very secretive about turning to alcohol and drugs. And then within 3.5 years, they both became addicted to amphetamines. And that ultimately led them 4 years or so after that to be addicted to methamphetamines. And so it's been a very rough journey. And that's why I wrote this book, Conscious Bravery, that came out in May. I wrote this. This is my flagged copy. But because it wasn't available, there wasn't a book available at the time of grieving my husband's passing and then dealing with and trying to walk alongside my sons in their wilderness of mental health challenges and addiction. And there wasn't one protocol for bravery that I could find. I was pooling from all kinds of different resources, talking to psychotherapists, doing groups, reading poetry, reading psychotherapy books, and so forth, and using the tools and practices I'd taught clients for years, but I began to modify them. And so in answer to your question, it's really been a long journey, and I've had a lot of awakenings along the way, for sure. And one of them is that I am committed to being consciously brave, and that encompasses everything that we've talked about and more. How to be awake and alive and alert, even in the devastating moments, not just in the joyful ones.
No, I'm curious, how are your sons doing today?
They're both doing really well today. A couple weeks ago, it was very questionable what was going to happen with one of them. He was having an altered state, and he had relapsed on methamphetamines, and he had hit the streets because that made sense to him, and we were looking for him. He had not turned up. So that happened, and I wrote about that. Some of you who are on LinkedIn saw that I just mentioned there's a challenge going on in my life right now, but I'm still going to rejoice because I felt like I needed to still, and I still do need to remember that there's so much in life to be grateful for. I do gratitude prayers day and night. And so even when he was lost, I was thankful and grateful that there was the possibility that he was alive. And it turned out he was, and he's in treatment now, and he's really turning things around. I'm really confident that this time will be different for him. And that's the nature of mental health challenges and relapse. And that's another thing that I wrote about in this book, that we want to learn to go with the flow. And same with those of us who walk alongside with someone, or who if we have a cancer diagnosis or prognosis ourselves, to go with the ebbs and flows and to not be static. We've got to be able to be bendable in our strength.
Yeah. Pamela, thank you for being so vulnerable and authentic with that journey, and also recognizing it is messy. And I mean that in like the big M word, right? Like life is messy, and especially following a cancer diagnosis and a cancer loss. So thank you for that. And I'd like to recognize your bravery, right? And,
Aww.
You keep saying you're not the hero in this journey, and I think Tim and I and others might disagree there. I think you are quite the hero in that story. So what does bravery look like for you? What does it mean when I say that, and how do you define it?
I define bravery as conscious bravery because I believe that many of us have the capacity for that instinctual bravery, where we will run into a house and kind of try to save a dog or someone who we know is in there. If there's a fire, we can have that innate capacity for our adrenals to fire and for our integrity to merge with it and do the right thing. But all of us need conscious bravery almost every day of our lives, because like we were talking about earlier, we're all going to get sick. This has been a challenging 3 years with the pandemic and so many things happening globally. And so we've all needed to resource in different ways. So to me, conscious bravery is having the awareness to know whatever is needed and then actually do something in any given moment, to take action. Conscious bravery is active, and it is varied. So I write about this in the book. We have to have a whole array of tools available at the ready. We all are born with this innate bravery, just like we're born with love, the seeds of love or the seeds of compassion, but they really have to be cultivated, both in the trenches and in the easy moment. And so we learn how to be loving as we walk alongside our family members and friends who struggle, right? And how to be loving toward ourselves. And similarly, we learn how to be brave when we commit to it and we build habits around bravery, doing hard things that feel unnatural, rewiring our brains and taking the less trodden path and doing something new.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think what I hear in that is that it's a choice. It's conscious. And
Yes.
Continuing to have to choose and choose again is what I'm hearing in that. So thank you for that perspective.
Great way to put it. Yes, to choose it again. And if we get discouraged, know that that's a part of our process, and to say, okay, this is the part of me that gets discouraged, huh? And be awake and aware enough to notice this is what I do sometimes. And then maybe reset, because sometimes I've had so many regrets for things I did do or didn't do that I have felt shame. And so I came up with this thing I call the seesaw of regret, where we're up here in our regret, but we land ourselves and come down to the ground and say, I'm going to use that regret to motivate myself, or use that guilt to motivate myself into new behaviors and new beliefs that serve me better now.
So powerful. Thank you, Pamela.
Sure.
So Pamela, what inspired you to write the book? And if you'd also like to talk a little bit more about the book.
Sure. I made a note on that question, and I basically was so profoundly moved by my husband's dying process and his death, and that spiritual process for me and the therapeutic process, that I had to learn things that I thought a lot of us don't learn, which is how to simultaneously, as my friend Alan Seal says in Transformational Presence work, how to simultaneously set him free and let him go, but also come back radically to my life and live it with what is right now. And so what inspired me to write the book is that I'd walked alongside clients for years, Tim and Erica, and our listeners, and developed some tools and practices that worked really well for them. But with the combined challenges I incurred of my husband's death and the loss, the grieving, and my son's grieving, and then them having mental health challenges and addictions, I wanted to put something simple and readable together in one book. And so my book encompasses what I call the pillars of bravery, like befriending all of our feelings, learning how to be right here, right now. How do we actually do that? Because there's a lot of talk about be here now, but how do we do it? So I have a chapter called Now There's This. There's a chapter on becoming comfortable with overwhelm and discomfort. That's a really challenging thing for most of us. That's why we all have little addictions or little compulsions. We turn to weed or alcohol or whatever, shopping, to manage our uncomfortable emotions rather than holding space for it and staying with our discomfort and learning the strength that comes from that. And so those are just a few of the things. In my book, I also talk about lightheartedness and laughter, because I'm actually, even though I'm pretty serious here today, I'm a pretty goofy person. And I believe in play brain and humor. And so that lightheartedness can actually impact us greatly. And it's brave to be lighthearted, even amidst tragedy. Like I remember one time my husband and I were walking into the hospital for one of his treatments together, and it was a parking garage. And we were walking from our car just down that little middle way, where there's room for a car to go by. And this guy whips around the corner and just flies past us. And we both kind of pulled each other and stepped back, like almost in the nick of time. And then we both just burst into laughter. And he said, man, wouldn't it have been funny if we both died on the way into my cancer treatment? And that may not sound like it's so funny to the two of you, but we laughed.
No, I get it. Yeah.
And we just thought, I learned, and my husband learned, the preciousness of life. And I wanted to convey that. I think it's woven through, a couple of my friends have said that it's woven through the pages of my book, because I really do see talking with all of you as a service. And being alive today is a gift. I was graced with being the one who lived. And I have messages to pass on, and I hope that you can read Conscious Bravery and find resources for yourself, no matter what your situation is.
I personally cannot wait to read it. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank
Wow.
you. That's great
Yeah.
to know.
I can't either.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'm like,
Exciting.
oh, that chapter on being present. It's like I need the cliff notes right now, right? It's hard
Yeah.
some days.
Don't
right,
we
right here,
all?
right now. Yeah.
And the overwhelm.
Yes. Yeah. I heard that. What is it? Being okay with discomfort and overwhelm.
Yeah, I call it become comfortable with discomfort or become comfortable with overwhelm. And comfortable meaning that we're more accustomed to it. We're not just saying, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to do affirmations enough that I just live above, the trenches. Not really possible. Sorry. Right? We're all going to have really, really tough things happen. And it's really not just our attitudes or our mindset. It's actually what we embody, what we do emotionally and physiologically that helps us to rewire and live with hope and confidence and bravery.
Yeah. Pamela, this is an incredible story and the journey goes on. What would you describe as the silver lining for you in this journey to date?
It has truly been to know the grace of being alive, the preciousness of from the moment I wake up in the morning, even if my mind is already racing, which happens a lot, or already anxious, or I'm already thinking about my day, I have a commitment to come back to the moment and say, okay, here I am waking up. Here I am breathing. I can see, I can hear. And I love David Stendelrast. He's got a beautiful TED Talk on that about gratitude. And so really, I would say that the silver lining is being aware of the preciousness of life. No matter what's happening, even if I'm in pain, physical pain or emotional pain, even if my loved ones are on the street and missing, there's still so much to be grateful for.
Yeah. And I agree with that. That is, I always say when you lose someone you love, it's like a club you never wanted to belong to. But the gratitude that you get for life and the different lens, I am grateful for that too. Thank you for saying that, Pamela.
Sure.
So, Pamela, we always end the show with this one question, with this one word question. Pamela, what is your one word perspective on cancer? And we would also love to know, everyone who is tuning in, whether you're live or on the replay, what is your one word perspective on cancer?
Transformation.
Ooh.
It's a hard journey. And so I transformed, my husband transformed, my kids transformed in a lot of ways that were very, very challenging and dark even. And yet there's everything in between. There's the dark and the light and all of the colors in between. And the process for me has made life so much more rich and full. And I connect with people with greater presence. I live my life with greater awareness and deeper compassion, a deeper sense of understanding. I'm more curious, and I'm probably even a little more playful too. So that's transformational. Who would have thought, right? Post-cancer.
Right. Yeah, life's too short, right? And so
Yes.
transformation is a great word. Tim, what's your word?
Yes. My word's going to be support. I guess, which is similar to the word community that I use so often around here. Cancer, for me, and you were also saying, Pamela, about Caring Bridge and about other forms of support that you and your family received. Support is so important when, whether you're a survivor or a supporter, to have along the journey. So my word's going to be support. What about you, Erica?
Yeah. I see it, Tim. I'm like, I change every week.
Yes, you do.
I know. This week, it's actually journeys. And that was an intentional plural of that word. It's Pamela, it's almost in the transformation piece. It's the journey that I think I heard your husband on, right? There's some denial, there's hope, and there's grace for himself. And then the journey that you were on, and then the journey your sons are on and continue to be on. And so for me, it's journeys, and it's not just the cancer patient, it's the supporters, it's the extended family, it's the Caring Bridge community. Every one of those readers on the Caring Bridge was on their own journey. So that was where I landed on journeys today.
Love it. I love that. I have this triangle for a different reason, but I love that. Journeys, support, and transformation. And we put it all together and we have a bigger foundation.
Yes. Ooh.
I love it. You came with visuals.
Exactly.
Visuals. I found this on the street.
Oh, the universe put that in front of you for sure. That's amazing.
That's great.
Love your words.
Yeah. And I love the visual. That was quite mic drop. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of mic drops. We even have mic drop visuals that guests bring. I love it.
Yeah.
Ashik said, make moments momentous. He always had like his words. He always has the wording his wording. I don't know.
Love that.
Mark Kageyama said, great word. Ashik said, cancer transforms and transcends. Lacey says, learnings and vulnerable community.
Ooh, Lacey's my soul sister.
I love it. And Ashik says, cancer opens hearts. All the mic drops.
Yeah. This is incredible. Thank you to this community for participating and making all of the comments and putting in your vulnerable phrases, words, and moments and creating community. Thank you to this community. Thank you to Pamela. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you all for showing up. And make sure to check out Pamela's book. I put her link below in the comments and in the ticker down below. Our show is going to wrap up soon, but Erica, is there anything you want to say before we go? And then I'll turn it over to Pamela.
I didn't want to interrupt you the time, but it wasn't necessarily a mic drop moment, but just like when Pamela, you mentioned beautiful ugliness. And that landed for me. I totally understand what you're saying. And I just wanted to recognize you for being able to name it. Watching someone go through that dying process, I witnessed that beautiful ugliness as well. And I was never been able to express it in words. So I just want to say thank you for naming it and allowing those of us who've been in that place to feel seen and heard.
Absolutely. And thanks for acknowledging that. And Tim, I'm looking at your comment in regard to this and what Erica's saying. No, there have been so many things that were unexpected. And that's part of why I really believe in preparation, because the more prepared we are with more tools at the ready, the more we can handle whatever comes our way with awareness and consciousness. So thank you. And we can handle the ugliness and find the beauty that's woven in between it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say farewell?
Oh, thank you. I just want to thank everyone that's been here. I'm so grateful to you, Tim and Erica. It's just a kind of a mixed delight to be able to talk about this. It's very, very hard, but it's so important. And so thank you, everyone, for being here. If you want more information, there's my YouTube channel, too, Pamela Brinker on YouTube, and then my website, which is pamelabrinker.com. And then, as Tim was saying, you can get the book if you need a resource or would like one. And it's a short read, and it's also on Audible. It's only a little over 4 hours on Audible. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today and your candid questions and beautiful comments.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Pamela.
Sure.
Oh, no, don't want to do that. Okay. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
that was another one. Well, Tim, you know what? I think this might be the time to show what I brought as my quote for the day.
Oh, yes.
I think I chose this one for Pamela, and it says, life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the number of moments that take our breath away. And there were many moments in that conversation with Pamela that took my breath away, to be totally honest. The beautiful ugliness comment brought me back to my mom's days, but also just hearing her words and how she consciously was brave in this episode, right? Sharing her story so authentically and vulnerably. That was conscious bravery in action. And so I just was moved by that.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much to Pamela. And thank you to all of our guests who show up every week so bravely sharing their stories so vulnerably and authentically. And we know it's not an easy thing to do, but we appreciate you doing it. And we appreciate all of you who show up in the comments, supporting each other, sharing your stories and your perspectives in the comments as well.
Absolutely.
And we are always looking for guests. Speaking of guests who want to be on the show, so please get in touch with me if you are interested in being a guest on the show. If you would like to share your cancer story, we would love to have a conversation with you and potentially have you on the show. So just send me a direct message if you would be interested in doing that. Also, a reminder that the in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event is coming up quickly on November 5th here in Pennsylvania. You can sign up at perspectivesoncancer.com. And also, I need to drink coffee. I think I need coffee so I can get the words out of my mouth or something. I need to do something. I also just want to briefly mention that in December, we are not going to have any Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer shows. I am going to call that Self-Care Month because we need to take care of ourselves, and creating shows, especially creating shows around cancer, take a lot of energy and a lot of emotional energy. And we love all of you, but also just a lot of things happen in December around families and all the things. So we're taking a month off. We love you all, but we're taking off the month of December. So just wanted to let you know ahead of time that that's happening. Erica?
Everybody gets to be in their own community. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's happening. Erica, what's happening next week? Things are going to be a little different next week.
Little different. Unfortunately, I am not going to be here next week. I get to spend some beautiful time in a retreat with my team at Pinky Swear Foundation. So I'm sorry to miss you guys, but drum roll, please. We are going to have an amazing session, Tim. It is going to be Ask Me Anything with Tim Sohn, our very own Tim Sohn.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, that's different.
That's different. Tim, I want this community to ask you the toughest, most authentic, vulnerable, wacky question. So that's my challenge to our viewers for next week. And welcoming to join Tim virtually and really just dig deep on the mystical, magical, and creator, Tim Sohn.
And you guys are welcome to join me on stage here where Erica is over there. I mean, it won't be the same without Erica, but you're welcome to actually come on stage with me here and be live on screen with me. Or you can ask me your questions in the comments if you're not comfortable doing that. But I would love if you join me on screen, and I'll provide the link for you that day.
Be consciously brave and get on screen with Tim.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I encourage you guys to lean into that. If there's any part of you that's like, I might be interested, go for it. Pamela would say to you, choose bravery. I read this statistic that people on their deathbed have always the biggest regret is not taking a risk. So take a risk. Join us next week virtually.
I love it. Thank you for the encouragement, Erica. So thank you, Erica. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pamela, for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. And now it's that time. It's that time, Erica.
My favorite time.
It's time to dance. It's time to dance.
I love it.
Here we go.
Get in the groove, people.